Hello, how's everyone doing? I'm so happy to see y'all. We just pull this up in the group and we're having a great conversation today. We're going to talk about the most profitable business models in 2025 and what it really takes to sell them. If you know me and my work, if you don't know me and my work, I support my clients to grow and scale profitable businesses. I'm really big on scaling smarter, not harder. I think our online space gets so wrapped up in just chasing top line revenue, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I care so much more for my clients that they have sustainability, but also profitability, and that they're actually able to pay themselves well. I think we forget sometimes that top line revenue is not the same as what you take home, and there really just is, there's so much to that in business, and I think understanding what models are profitable, what goes into them is actually quite important as we're scaling, because otherwise it's really easy online to get caught up in, I guess I would call this the comparison, or to be in a mastermind with a bunch of people and see what everybody else is doing and think that that's how you need to scale. And that is definitely, many of you probably know, I have an all one-on-one business model. So that's something I'm always having to be mindful of myself, just to keep my eyes on my own paper, but also to make sure I'm also putting all the options on the table to continue to think, do I want to scale in a different way? And it's something, because I do coach clients only in a one-on-one capacity. I see so much through my clients because I have clients in literally every business model that are scaling, using every different business model. So I have such a insight into all of them and really intimately into what goes into them, how profitable they are, because we use revenue share, kind of what's going on there. So we're going to dive into all of that today. Let me just pull this up here. If you are here, please say hi. Let me know you're here. If you have questions as we're going through this, I want this to be valuable for you. So always when I do these, I want this to be something you can take away from our conversation. So if you have questions, reflections, anything like that, I always welcome them. Before we dive into, weird, it just showed me a message and then it went away. Oh, Facebook and technology. I think it showed me, Tinley, that you were here, so hi, Tinley. Before we dive in, a quick announcement. I do have a free masterclass happening next Wednesday. It will be an hour earlier than we usually have this live stream, and it will not be held in the Facebook group. I know in the past I held them in the Facebook group. I've been hosting my master classes on Zoom recently, so they can be a little bit more intimate. I will keep the class. I know I can be long-winded, but I'm keeping this class to ideally about an hour. I will open up some Q&A time afterwards. I have a half an hour blocked off. It'll be, time to literally one-on-one answer your questions. Think of it as like a free group coaching program where you could bring your questions, obviously related to the masterclass topic. We're going to dive into the fully booked method. If you don't know me, I've been fully booked for 6.5, almost 7 years with 20 to 25 one-on-one high ticket clients. And over the years, I think every strategy works. I support clients with every strategy, but I have found there is one simple strategy that works for every niche and pretty much every business model to get and stay fully booked. I'm going to walk you through that, through the thought process through that, and through the framework of that. There's also a bonus playbook when you sign up, so you can help apply this to your business to speed up your results. And I will be, everybody who signs up will be entered to win I'm giving away one VIP strategic planning session. I've been fully booked, again, for almost 7 years. I have a very high retention rate. I've had a 100% retention renewal rate in the past couple of months. So this is a great way to book a call with me. I open up very limited spots and week-long strategy intensive. So just signing up gives you a chance to win a session with me. All right. So that's, Tinley says, woohoo, hi, I love you. I love you too. So I'd love to have you for those masterclasses. I think they're all pretty great. I think I give some great value. I think this one in particular is one that I know has really supported people. I think it just helps simplify what to focus on to book clients, because I think, again, the online space, information world, it's kind of what we're talking about today, like information overload. I think it's helpful that we have so much at our fingertips. I think it's helpful to be in spaces where you're going to see what other people are doing, but decision fatigue is real. And when we have so many options, it makes it really tough for us to know what to focus on, what works for us in our business. And if you're a client of mine, if you've been listening to my content, I'm so big on doing less better and getting really clear on your strategy, your business model, what you're going to focus on. That's how you blow up results in your business. Scaling, I think we think scaling is just doing more for the sake of doing more. Scaling is having your revenue and basically your profitability outpace your effort and your expenses. And so we can't do that if we're doing all of the things and running around like a chicken with our head cut off. Hey, Alyssa, nice to have you here. So fun to have the faces. All right. So join me for the masterclass next week. Let's dive into this class, mini masterclass today. So we're going to talk about profitable business models and what it takes to scale them. So I'm going to break down the different business models. This is coming from, I did a live stream on business models maybe a year or two ago, and it was really valuable for people. And over the last year, you have all heard all the changes online. I think we've just heard so much about the changes online, the trust recession, the economy recession, AI, all of this. And I think it's making it very confusing for people to know what is still selling. I think there's a lot of noise that courses aren't selling anymore. I think there's a lot of noise that high ticket isn't selling anymore. So I just want to break down what I see being true. I have a small sample size because I only work with clients one-on-one. That being said, I also have a large sample size in that I'm not just basing this off my business. I am basing this off of, I've had multiple clients have record-breaking launches recently. I had one client have her best launch ever, another client who has had her best launch in I think 3 or 4 years, and she's still in it, so we might surpass that. I've had multiple clients in other business models that are on track for their best year ever in business or have had best months recently in various models. And I have clients in every model we're going to talk through today. So I'm seeing firsthand how they're selling, what has shifted from last year to this year, what is more profitable than others, and I kind of want to walk through the trade-offs of what to know depending on your model. Or if you're thinking about choosing one of these models to scale, what to know in terms of, yes, the profitability, but also just kind of what goes into it, because I think that's something we don't always think about. I think sometimes we see things online and we just look at, here's all the money I can make, instead of what are the trade-offs associated with this model and what goes into it. And trade-offs meaning, what do you have to pour into it, but also what is it going to actually give you back? Because again, what I said at the beginning of this conversation, I will be a broken record on this, but I feel like if I can impart this into our industry, it'll just make my heart so happy. Chasing top line revenue is an exhausting game. What matters so much more is what you're actually able to take home from your business. It doesn't mean that there is a right profit margin and that your business is better if it has a higher profit margin than a business that has a lower profit margin, right? You can have a larger business with a higher revenue and a lower profit margin, and that doesn't have to be bad. That means it just means you might take home the same amount as someone who has a smaller business with a lower revenue but a higher profit margin, right? You could just take home the same amount. So at the end of the day, if you know you're going to take home the same amount of money either way, you might as well choose the model with the trade-offs that most support you, your goals, how you want to show up, how you want to serve, what you want for your lifestyle in and out of business, right? That's why I feel so good sticking with one-on-one. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm great at. This is what I love. This is how I know I can best support clients. This is how I want to spend my days. I love my fucking work. And I know while my top line revenue might not be as high as other models, I am on paper, right? I'm taking home the same amount, if not more. So like everybody gets to win in that way. So that's a lot of what I want to talk about today. So let me just see here. I want to make sure I do not pronounce your name incorrectly. So please feel free to give me a phonetic spelling of this, but I think it's Abdrahameni. It says, so amazing to listen to you. I'm so happy to have you here. Please forgive me if I am pronouncing your name incorrectly, but so happy to have you here and have you here for the conversation. Okay, so that's kind of the context in terms of where I'm coming from. Oh, let me not give you a boob shot here. But let's talk about these. I think what we also need to context, you have probably heard me and every other business coach person talk about this all year long. But for those of you who are maybe like, oh, this is brand new information, let's just also like level set in a couple things in terms of business models. Look, every business model can work. I literally have clients selling every business model successfully. Both low and high ticket are still selling. They can both work. You can still have a very successful and profitable business with either. That being said, what we'll talk through today, every business model is not created equally in terms of what is required to have it sell, to bring in consistent revenue, and to have it be profitable. And I think that's where some of the nuances we're going to talk about today are important. But again, you do you. Every business model does work. Please don't let someone tell you that that isn't the case. That being said, again, like difference to sell, to sustain, to scale, and to sustain. I do think what we want to be mindful of, and what I'm looking at with clients, even if they're continuing to keep the same business model, is understanding that our industry is always shifting and changing, and we have to pay attention to that with any model that we have, so that we are continuing to have offers that are desirable to people, that people want to spend money on. And so much has shifted in the last couple of years, and that's not a bad thing. I think we almost hear that like that's a bad thing like, oh my gosh, everything's so different. What's working in 2025? I know I use that in my marketing as well, but I really mean that just from a lens of like, industries are always changing. The world is always changing. This isn't a bad, scary thing. It's just understanding that so that we can make sure we're adapting and shifting with the people in our market, with the market space, so that we can continue to sell, scale, sustain our offers, and also to have offers that are really valuable to people, so that people are getting what they're investing in. And so I think just to normalize, and I put this, I think, in the email, but just so that we have context going into this conversation, I do think, look, I talk about how I have really great ad costs. We barely use ads, and I don't have to rely on ads in my business. So I'm not a great sample size there. My ads, we have stupid results from ads. I have some clients who are crushing it with ads, but again, most of those are clients who don't really need to rely on ads. As a whole, I think we are seeing ads cost continue to rise. And I think they have so for the last couple of years. So acquisition of leads, if you're using ads, is more expensive for most people. Even if you're doing organic content, right, we're seeing a more saturation in the space, and we are seeing inflation cause team costs to go up. So overall, I think we're just seeing an increase in expenses for acquisition of people in your audience for leads. It's such like businessy term, acquisition, but I don't know how else to say it. Like, just in terms of the cost for that, there is a cost associated, whether it's ads, whether it's team, whether it's your time. We are just seeing that increase, right? It does just take more time. More needs to go into our businesses than it used to in the past. We are seeing lower trust. For the first time ever, so for the masterclass I'm running, I ran like just a small amount of ads. We started playing with ads last year. I love ads, by the way, which I never thought that I would say. But for the first time ever, I had someone post a question on my ad for the Fully Booked method for the masterclass I'm running next week. And it was like, what kind of coach am I? And then it was basically asking my background and where I was coming from. And so I wrote a long response and asked if that answer their question. And basically, I wish I actually pulled this up before the live stream, what the reflection was from this person kind of in the what do you call it, in the comments, was like, thank you so much. You just don't know anymore. There's so many people saying so many things, like you just don't know where people are coming from, like who's who. It was something along those lines. And I was like, oh, this is just such validation for what we've all been talking about. And this is the thing we have to keep in mind with as we explore these business models. There is just lower trust. Not that there are people who like don't want to buy or don't want to sign up for things. It's not that we have great signups, we have great ad costs, right? I've got a wait list, right? It's not that those things aren't happening. It's just we have to put in a little bit more to build that trust than we did before, even with something like an ad, right? Like, I needed to give some context there to show I was who I said I was for someone to even sign up for something free. So that is just affecting profitability of business models, just to bring it full circle to the conversation. There's just more saturation than there ever was. I think post 2020, we're just seeing, yes, I think some people will leave the online space. I do think it is, I don't want to use the word harder. I think it just requires more touch points and more nurture and more of a relationship build than it did in the past, is maybe a better way to say that. And I think we will see some people weed out, but I think the online space, like, it has just been flooded. That's not going away. And then AI has just turned information into a commodity. So that is definitely changing certain business models in terms of what people are willing to spend money on, what people even have a need for, if we think about selling something that is a need to have versus a nice to have. So that's just a little context for where we are going into. Again, if you have questions, reflections, let me know. Okay, so let's break down models in terms of profitability and just really what goes into selling it, because that's what I wanted to talk about today. So let's start with memberships. I actually need a sip of water. Let's talk about memberships. I wanted to start with memberships because I think in most people's minds, memberships are, what I hear from clients is they seem like they are the easiest, they are the most scalable, that this is like, I don't know, I know when I started my business, gosh, I'm a dinosaur, y'all. When I started my business, this March, I'll have been in business 10 years, been coaching for like 11, 12 years. My first year in business, I thought, everybody talks about you need reoccurring revenue, memberships are great, it's low ticket, so it's easier to sell, that I should have a membership. I sold one, got a handful of people into them, and I closed it 3 months later because I realized what went into running a membership. It was called the Grit Lab. I thought it was really great. And also I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. So let's talk about memberships. I think memberships can be a great model. I do have a couple of clients using them really successfully. Pros of a membership model is it is a reoccurring revenue model, meaning if you have someone signing up, they will continue to pay month after month. And that isn't a must in a business, but there definitely is more sustainability and ease when you have a reoccurring revenue model. I like to look with clients to see how can we bake that in. I think they can do really well when you have some sort of delivery where your audience needs something new and updated all of the time. I have a client who has a SEO membership, and it's really great for her and for her audience because that is something that her audience needs, something new updated all of the time. If any of you need that, it is really great. You can DM me and I'll send you a link to it because I think it's quite accessible in terms of price point. I think memberships can also be great because usually they're at a more accessible price point. So that can be a really great entry level offer for people, right? There's that for those of you who are accessibility is a value of yours, that can be really great there. So there's definitely pros there. On the cons here, just in terms of like what's required to sell this and just what to keep in mind with memberships, I do think memberships are probably one of the toughest models. Honestly, I think they're just one of the toughest models, period. I think they always have been. I think particularly right now, I think they are one of the more challenging ones to grow and to grow in a way that is profitable. The reason for that is membership models have a high attrition rate, meaning keeping people and having that retention is challenging in a lot of memberships, right? Like they are usually set up to be a month-to-month thing. So unless you set it up with a 6-month yearly type membership, and then is it a program or is it a membership? That is a constant challenge for people with memberships. Because they are usually more accessible and lower ticket, you are needing to sell high volume to make the same amount of reoccurring revenue. And then you also have that low retention. So you're needing to constantly focus on bringing new traffic in to reach enough numbers, to make enough money, to then also have to focus on keeping them. And you're constantly having to fill that funnel. Because of that, this is then something that gets really tricky because ad costs are going up. But this is a model that requires constant influx of people to both hit the volume to make enough money to meet your revenue goals, but also to keep enough people in the program if you have people that are falling out after a couple of months. And so it gets really tough for this to be a very profitable business model at scale unless you have a really large audience, a lot of demand, or this is an offer that is funneling into a higher ticket offer. So hopefully that all makes sense. So again, it's not that you can't do it. I have clients running these successfully, and those are some of the things in terms of what it takes to actually sell and make money from this model and the profitability of this model, especially if you don't have a huge audience. Then you are looking at ads and knowing ad costs are going up and this is lower ticket, right? You start to really get into tight margins for that profitability. And I think these are things we don't always think about. We're like, oh, so-and-so is saying I should have a membership model. Let me go buy this course on how to run memberships. And, oh, got cat hair on me. Which can sound great in theory, right? And we can build it out until we realize there's a big difference between I could do this or this looks fun and what does this actually mean to run this business model in a way that is profitable, that actually supports me, my business, and my take-home pay, and that I'm also delivering something because now I'm on the hook where I've got to probably create something new every month for my people, right? I need to have something that is being delivered that is worth what people are paying for, that also retains people. I will give, I will share this. I have a past client who has a very successful membership model that has scaled to multi-millions, basically the majority of their revenue from their membership model. And I think that's also where these models get quite glorified. We caught up recently, and what I will just share, I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn, is even with a membership model that's bringing in that much revenue, ad costs are really affecting things for them, and they're really having to think and be innovative and lean more into organic marketing, and that's definitely a challenge. All of the things I just said are still a challenge, and what I think is really important with a business like that, if you're looking to other businesses, it's like, well, so and so, what is it, Boss Babe? Is that her name? Has a big membership. I would just really also look at a couple of things. When do they start and launch their membership? Right? A lot of these are brands and businesses that have been built over decades, which creates a different audience size and a different loyalty size, so they don't have to rely all on ads to fill these programs. And the other thing again is, so the past client I'm thinking about, they have an audience of a couple 100,000 people, right? Aside from running ads for this, and they've built a brand over the last 15, 20 years, right? That's a big part of what feeds that membership and allows it to be profitable. I would say for the majority, again, of my clients who are selling and running memberships successfully, because I have a few, they are using it as a part of their offer suite, either to funnel into a higher ticket offer, or it is revenue, but it is not all of their revenue, unlike this one client, past client that I'm mentioning. I do think for people who are really solely relying on this, it is a business where there is a very solid brand and that loyal audience relationship and that audience size to feed that. And just the willingness to want to run a business at that size. Okay, let's talk, hopefully that makes sense. So again, memberships are not bad. I think it's just helpful to see, like, this is what it takes for that to be profitable. This is what it takes to sell something like that. Because I think, I was talking about this with one of my clients, past clients, and she was like, I reflected this to her because she was like wanting to sell this because she thought a membership would be the simplest. And I was like, look, it's going to take you the same amount of effort and energy, if not more, to sell a membership that's under $100 as it is to sell a course or a group program that's $1,000 a month. It's going to take you the same amount of work. So pick the model you actually want. And so as she was in it, she's like, I didn't believe you when you said that, but she's like, oh my God. She's like, it's literally the same amount of work. She's like, I think it's actually more work. So that's fine if that's the model you want and you're excited about it, right? It's just going in with your eyes open so you know what you're signing up for. That's how we also create sustainability in business. We screw ourselves in business and things feel unsustainable when we get sold the shiny results without understanding what goes into it, right? It's like a workout plan where you're like, you can have six-pack abs and no one tells you what's required to do that. And then you're like, oh, but like I'm never going to do that workout 7 days a week for 3 hours a day or whatever crazy thing is. Like, it kind of doesn't matter what the result is. But when you find that workout that you really like and can stick with, then the results are really easy to get. Okay, hopefully that made sense. Okay, let's jump into the next one. So let's talk courses next. I'm kind of going from wide one to many down to one-to-one in terms of how we're talking through this. So courses. First, let's just address, I feel like this has been the question I've had so many clients ask me, are people still buying courses? And so, yes, people are still buying courses. If this is helpful to hear, I bought a course last year for learning ads. If anybody, I highly recommend it. So if anybody wants, I'm like literally not an affiliate for anything, but I have an affiliate link for this because I believe in that program and it's worked so well for us. I have the stupidest low ad cost. So if anybody wants that link, you can just DM me. I'm happy to share my affiliate link. It gives you like bonus one-on-one sessions or a different price point. Otherwise, I would just say go through their website. It's a Successful Ads Club. And I did a live stream on that. So side note, if anybody wants that, I can share that with them. So I bought a course recently. I have multiple clients who, when I speak to record-breaking launches, multiple of those record-breaking launches we've had, and I'm talking in the last 3 months, so not like 3 years ago, have been from course sales and course launches. So yes, I have clients who are launching group programs and masterminds and other programs, but some of those record-breaking results, in fact, 2 in the last 2 months have been record-breaking course launch results. So all of that is to say, if they're getting record-breaking course launch results in 2025, that means that the best launch results they've ever had. Courses are clearly still selling. People are clearly still buying courses. I think there was so much fear with AI that nobody would buy courses anymore. And I think what is true, and we've talked about this, so I don't have to make this whole conversation here about this, but I'm just seeing, okay, no comments there. What is true is that I think, again, marketing has just changed, and how launches are working has changed, and all of these clients have dug in to show up in their launches in a different way. I think if we've talked about this, if Amy Porterfield, Jenna Kutcher are seeing differences in their launch strategies and they have brands that they've built over decades, of course, that's going to be true for you and I, but courses are still selling. What I think is different and what is required to have a course be profitable, just in terms of like understanding the profitability from a course model and what goes into selling that. So let's talk about that a little bit. I think with a course model, I made so many notes here for myself. I think let's just talk about the profitability first piece. I think what I would say with courses is, in terms of how they impact your revenue and profitability, I would put them into the medium. So if we have like low, medium, high, I would say memberships probably on the lower side. I would put courses in the medium. You could go medium to high if you're not trying to scale these dramatically and just using organic marketing. For most people, unless you have a very large audience or this isn't your main revenue source, are using ads to blow up courses. That is just like generally courses become the benefit and the pro to courses is you can put as many people as you want through it. So that's where ads come into play. So I would say on a pro side here, there is sort of like an uncapped potential, so to say, in terms of how many people you can run through, how much revenue you can make. So like that is a pro. I think a pro for a lot of people is, I hate the term trading time for money because we are all trading time for money. A course model is by no means less work than a one-on-one or a mastermind or a group program. The time you spend just looks different. So instead of at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday needing to be on a mastermind call or on a one-on-one session, you might be spending your time recording or updating course modules, replying to course students in a format, spending a lot of time marketing, looking at your data from your ads, updating your ads, creating new ad creative and copy, right? So it is still a time-intensive model. The time just gets spent differently. For some of my clients who don't like to be on calls or who want the flexibility in terms of, I don't want to have to be somewhere at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. I like to work in chunks of time. I've got kids, whatever that is, this can be a great, those are some of the benefits. I just want to be very clear. This is by no means anybody who has a great course model, even if it's an evergreen model, meaning they're not launching all the time and they're just running ads in air quotes to a funnel that is making money, like selling courses on the back end, has poured quite a bit of intention and time and testing into that. And most people who have an evergreen model, that is not their main source of their revenue, and it's usually not the largest source of their revenue unless they're really doing that massively scale. But I really don't know many people who are, I actually don't know anybody personally between clients and peers who are only making the bulk of their revenue from an evergreen funnel. So just to point to some of the pros and the cons there, I would say one of the negatives, or I don't want to say negatives, but just things to consider is with a course model, unless it is funneling into another offer, unless you have, let's say, so I have a couple of clients who have courses and then there's like a group call component and people can, it's sort of like a membership, people can stay in the back end after that. I have another client who has course models and that feeds into her group programs. So unless you have something like that, course models do not have any reoccurring revenue, meaning it is, if this is your whole model in terms of revenue and profitability, it can start, this is why I would say it's medium profitability, you are always having to create sales, right? You don't have a very long lifetime client value, right? If we think about how long is a client in your world and what is the value of a client over time, a membership is probably the least, and unless someone stays in your membership forever. Courses can be some of the lowest because yes, you might have a $2,000 course program, but if there's nothing else for anyone to do after that, that's done and you have to constantly fill this, right? It becomes sort of similar to if you're a website designer, for example, and when someone is finished with the website, you have to go find another client. It's similar in that. That is not bad or wrong, but I think these are things we want to be mindful of when we're choosing models, because we get so wrapped up in so-and-so had a 100K launch instead of understanding, right, but that was 100K for half the year and then they're going to do this again. And here's all of the work that's required to go into that. Now they have to go get a bunch of new people in their audience, market a whole bunch to fill this funnel to be able to do this again a second time. One is not better or worse, right? It is all based on what do you prefer. But again, just so we can understand what's going on there. And then because for most people, again, unless you have a large audience with great brand identity and great relationships with your audience, and you're really great at organic marketing, courses are generally an ads game to blow up, which means between that and then what is usually required for live launches in terms of team support, and if you're hiring copywriters, and if you have people who are supporting you on the back end of facilitating a course, right, that can all cut into profitability. That is not wrong or bad, right? It takes money to make money. All of us have to invest in our businesses to make money. That is, I literally spend in things in my business that are absolutely essential. Like, I could do it cheaper myself, but it makes so much sense for me to pay for, because that is what is required to run my business in a way that facilitates a great experience for my clients. That means I can show up and run this business. So please don't aim for 100% profit margin. That will limit your success so much. A course model has unlimited potential in terms of top line revenue. So it's okay that it might have a lower profit margin, right? Because you can make far more top line revenue. You're just not going to take all of that home, right? You're probably going to have that cut down. So again, that is not bad. Let's just assume whatever model we pick, we're all going to make the same amount of money. It does mean understanding what goes into that so that you can choose the model that makes sense for you. So this is going to be a model, again, that is going to be heavy on the creation, on the marketing side of things, on organic marketing, and on nurturing list growth, on ads, on tinkering with ads, on looking at data. It's going to be really heavy on that side of things. And then obviously you still have to deliver if you have any kind of live component. So that's just, again, the trade-off is it requires more traffic, and I would say more marketing effort, and there's no recurring revenue. It's kind of the trade-off there. But again, on the plus side, you don't have to be somewhere at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday. You can let this run evergreen, and this is something that you can funnel as many people as you want through it. I mean, there's a lot of pros as well, but just so that we can kind of see both sides of it. Okay, no questions. Just wanted to check. We've talked about kind of the differences my clients are making in terms of launches and things. I don't want to get too into the weeds on that, but I will say, just with courses, one of the things with just like the nugget here, I will say this is a model, memberships as well, but I think this model more than any of them is where I'm seeing clients just really lean in a little bit more in terms of how can I make sure that I AI proof my course, and how can I make sure that I proof or like trust recession proof in terms of the marketing. So looking at, I think every single one of my clients who's launched courses in the last couple of months, every single one of them, we've looked at making sure we're increasing the one-to-one, not one-to-one, but like the one-to-many, the touch points in terms of, is there a bonus support call? Is there a bonus live module? Just in terms of that access to support with people to not just consume information, but to have support applying and implementing that information to be able to get a benefit or result. And every single one of my clients who are doing well with courses are really focused on that delivery, and like always thinking about how do we make sure people actually get something and walk away from this program with that. And then really looking at the social proof side of things on marketing. Okay, let's just see. Okay, I'm gonna have a sip of water. If you have questions, throw them at me. Let me know if this is valuable, helpful for you. Okay, let's talk next. We're kind of going from like wide down narrow. We're now talking masterminds, group programs, high touch hybrid programs. I think that is the next one there. I think there's also a lag on Facebook. So if you do have a question for me and I'm not seeing it, I can always put it again, but I might just have to see it more than once. Okay, but I don't see a question. We just have a lag. That's okay. It's okay if we have a lag. Okay, so let's talk masterminds, group programs, high touch hybrid programs. So we're going to talk about this, and then we'll talk about one-on-one. So these are generally all going to be offers that are higher ticket. I think courses could be, you can have a high ticket course, you can have a low ticket course. Memberships, obviously you could have a high ticket membership, but I think for most people, memberships are on the lower ticket side. Masterminds, group programs, high touch hybrid programs are usually on the mid to high range in terms of revenue, or in terms of investment point for people. I think that often scares people away from them. I think we have this fallacy that low ticket is easier to sell, high ticket is harder to sell. Look, I am so biased when I say this, so take this with a grain of salt, because I have tested and sold every offer business model in my business. That's how I know one-on-one's the best for me, and I've helped clients sell every single model. So again, I am biased from my own experience. That being said, I do think high ticket is honestly easier to sell. I know that sounds backwards, but again, biased, I think it is so much easier to sell. Or I think if nothing else, it takes the same amount of work, but I say it's easier because you just need so fewer people to make exponentially more revenue. And so it might be the same amount of effort to sell a couple of spots into a membership, but if I'm selling a membership for $39 and I have a group program, even if it's a low ticket group program for $3,900, right? If it takes me the same amount of effort to get 3 people or 5 people, like exponential difference in terms of revenue. So generally speaking, I think one of the pros to these types of programs is they are higher ticket because there is more in-depth support with that. I think there's usually reoccurring revenue and there's usually an opportunity for renewals or high retention, which can create a much more sustainable and easeful business model because the lifetime value of a client and the lifetime time someone spends in your business can be protracted to 3 months, 6 months, a year, even multiple years for many people. I have many clients who have their clients for multiple years in these types of programs. So what that means is you have a lot of sustainability and reoccurring revenue built into your business, but that also really brings the marketing lift down quite a bit. This generally means you need less of, you can have a smaller audience. You don't have to spend the same amount on ads, if at all, though a lot of, I know a lot of people do like to have that combination of organic and ad spend. This usually means that your time and effort in terms of marketing, it's still required. I do think it's more than, say, a one-on-one model, but it is definitely far, far less. And the honestly, I think for a lot of my clients, they like it because there's just a much lower perceived pressure or stress in the business when there's both the reoccurring revenue that is projected for months at a time, but when they know they're going to retain a certain number of clients at that revenue point, right, and they only ever have a certain number of spots to fill at any given time, that just creates a lot more, I think, mental ease in a business as well. So I think there's a lot of pros there. I think aside from one-on-one, this is definitely, I think, one of the more sustainable and scalable models for most people. I think because they're higher ticket, again, there's a higher earning potential, but because of all the reasons we just said, the profitability in a mastermind, I would say, is on the medium high to high range. I think it depends, again, on how big a mastermind, a group program, right? A group program would have 100 people in it, or high touch hyper program, how big you're wanting to scale that, and then also what that looks like in terms of, obviously, if you want to have 100 people in a group program versus 20, we're looking at different numbers in terms of audience size and marketing, and also different infrastructure and support on the back end. So there is just going to be more complexity for holding 100 people and serving them well if you're not just doing what has caused problems in our industry and you're holding those people and serving them well, right? There's just going to be more complexity. There's usually going to be more team involved. Oftentimes there's support coaches or just support behind the scenes. So that can all cut into profitability. But again, because this is higher ticket, there's usually more room for this. And again, if you need to have more people, you might have more ad spend, but again, because these are higher ticket programs, you can usually absorb more of those expenses, which allows for you to still have a nice, healthy profit margin on the back end. I'm just trying to think. I do think what I would say here in terms of like some of the trade-offs and things to think about in terms of what's required to sell this, I have a few clients who have started successfully with group programs as the way they've grown their business because they just don't like one-on-one, right? If you just don't like one-on-one, you should not offer one-on-one. That being said, for most of my clients who are starting their business and building to their first 6 figures as opposed to scaling from 6 figures and above, I find this is one of the more challenging models to start with, simply because it does require more warm, nurtured humans in front of you, or you to go out and get some leads and have more to start at the same time. And so for that reason, and then just the level of complexity that can happen when you're serving and holding multiple humans at one time, I do think that is a specific skill set. And I think what people don't always realize with scaling a business, and I think this is true for courses and group programs, but with masterminds, with group programs, with one-on-one, with hybrid, high touch programs, we are more intimately connected with our humans, with our clients. When that's the case, I think what people are not always aware of is, I think it's so easy for us to say, I want $1 million business, and not to realize what it means to hold and run $1 million business. The more humans we're holding, right, the more that is required of us in terms of navigating those complexities, navigating what comes up with different people, holding different people, having boundaries, managing team, leading team, the responsibility that comes with that, the responsibility that comes with making sure we're delivering really well, having people who are disappointed, having people who are in conflict. It is all very solvable. But these are the things, when I'm supporting clients at a higher level in business, it's not so much, I mean, yes, we're looking at things like sales and we're looking at things like their marketing and messaging, of course, that's part of it. But a lot of what we're also looking at is who they have to be and the complexities and responsibilities they're holding at that higher level. So I would say it's not a negative, but just with a program like this, there is just generally, there's more humans you're holding usually at the same time, so you have those dynamics, and then there is just generally more complexity to your business. Again, I think this is still one of the simpler business models, and medium high to high profitable business models, those are just some of the things to consider depending on where you're at in your business and where it makes sense or when it makes sense to add something like this on. I think this is the kind of offer where if you can't think of 10 to 20 people in your world who you think would be excited to join a program like this, you're probably not in the place to offer a program like this. That probably means your first step in job is to go out and build those relationships and leads to have enough people to fill a program like this. Robin says, loving this. Thanks, Kim. So glad. She says, do you find you have to strategically put yourself in front of a totally different audience for high ticket, or would any audience have a mix? I honestly think, okay, let me just think of how to answer this, because I think I get what you're saying. So Robin's basically asking, if you're selling high ticket, do you need to put yourself in front of a different audience? I think the audience is the same. I think the positioning is really different. I'm going to use myself as an example. I both buy and invest in both low and high ticket offers, depending on what my needs are and depending on the problem I have that I need to solve. And I think most of us are that case. Of course, if we are only speaking to people in our messaging and we're positioning in a way that is only speaking to low ticket problems, in air quotes, in terms of, I just wouldn't spend a lot of money to solve this, or to people who are financially struggling to such a degree where investing at a higher level would put them into a financially stressful or irresponsible place. I think, of course, that's a different conversation, but for most of us, we're going to have a mix in our audience. And I think it's more thinking about, how do I speak to high ticket problems? I don't even know if that's like the right way, that, like, excuse me for my terminology, but speaking to solving bigger problems for people that people want to invest at a higher level to solve or address, or needs at a higher level. I'm going on vacation. This is maybe a silly example. I'm going to Iceland in a couple of weeks. Lots of people go to Iceland. Tourism can market to lots of people. If you have a high-end or a low-end hotel, right, you can be in the same neighborhood, for example. It's just, that's not even, it's solving the problem of where do I sleep, and then there's different amenities, there's different things that are going to appeal to different people at those different price points, and that's all in their positioning. And so I'm using it as an example because it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, unless it's like, I want quiet and peace, but it could also be a desire someone has that would have them invest at a higher level. But if I think about my offer is high ticket, for example, if I think about my high ticket offer, I am supporting people in a way that is solving complex challenges in their business and helping them to scale a business and giving them a lot of one-on-one undivided attention. That is something, even though I have lots of people in my audience who probably would love a low ticket $39 solution for that and would pay for that, when they're ready to scale their business, will also invest at a high level. Hopefully that makes sense. But I think the way I think about it is, we're all high ticket and low ticket buyers. I will buy a $39 product all day, every day, and I will also pay my coach a lot of money. I just don't expect those offers to do the same thing for me. So if I buy a $39 product on hooks, for example, right, I just expect it to give me some hooks. Fine, that's worth $39. If I'm investing thousands and thousands of dollars in coaching, I expect that to solve or to give me something very different. But I, as a person, am still investing in both. Okay, hopefully that answered answer your question. I'm going to give you a follow-up question if you have one. Hopefully that I can give you more clarity if so. But again, if it's maybe to put a button on that for everybody, I think so much of this then goes into getting really clear and specific on the problem we're solving and having need to have offers that are solving need to have problems or giving people need to have benefits and really understanding how to position, how to sell that. I never ever in my business have thought like, how do I speak to people with more money or less money? Nor would I ever think about that, especially as a business coach, because I know most of us have to get super resourceful at the start of our business. And I've just never, I don't think I've ever found that to be really a reason someone invests in high ticket coaching or not. It's always been, is this the right support that meets the problem solution that I need? Robin says it totally makes sense and clarifies. Thank you. So my pleasure. Okay. So last one, so we just talked about masterminds, groups. If anybody has questions on that, hybrid offers. And a hybrid offer would be something like you have a group program, but you also offer a one-on-one call, or you have a group program, but you also give them course material. Let's talk about one-on-one consulting, high ticket, like one-on-one consulting, therapy, concierge type offers. So anything that kind of goes into that high ticket realm there. So again, I'm totally biased here. I'm biased based off of, I keep saying 5,000 one-on-one sessions. It's probably way more at this point. Almost a decade of 12 years of one-on-one coaching, but a decade coaching people in business. I still think one-on-one is the easiest model to sell, like hands down. I think it is, just in terms of some of the pros, I think it is the easiest business model for most business owners to start at, unless you just don't like one-on-one. And that's just a whole different conversation, and that is fine. You don't have to. Not everybody starts here. If I think about the past client who has the multi-million-dollar membership, she started with a membership, right? So you can start anywhere, but just in terms of, for most people, what's generally going to be the easiest to sell and to reach your revenue goals. I think one-on-one tends to be the easiest. The reason for it is you need one person at a time. You don't need a lot of marketing. You don't need a lot of audience members. You don't need complicated strategies or funnels. It is I think this is the most profitable because you don't need a lot of team support. You don't need support. You just don't need a lot of to get started with a model like this, and even to scale a model like this. And you can, I know people say you're trading time for money and you can only scale one-on-one so far, but the truth is you can scale one-on-one therapy, concierge services to high multi-six, if not multi-seven figures, depending on your offer, your price point, your audience. Most of us don't want a bigger business than that. Most of us don't want to hold a bigger business than that. I am not by any means suggesting this is the right model for everybody. I know when I look at my roster, I've got 23 one-on-one clients. There are a handful that also want an all one-on-one model like me. Some of my clients like to have a few one-on-one clients, and they have other models. So most of my clients have a hybrid, right? A offer suite that involves all of these different models. And I think it's worth also speaking to, there are going to be some of you who want one-on-one like I do, or who at least want to incorporate this into your business, or who are starting your business out and who are being told this is like, you're trading time for money, it's not scalable. And I just really want to paint a different picture, obviously because I love it, but also I think so many people end up missing out on really great businesses that can make them a lot of money, be really profitable, that can give them the lifestyle they want, the business they want, that aren't looking to hold what comes with a big program and million-dollar business that's literally paying the same take-home revenue. Again, I don't make the same top-line revenue as some of my peers, but I take home the same amount, and I'm doing what I like. They're doing what they like, so like we all win there. And so I just want to paint that on this model because I get I'm like almost defensive for it, but I just think I just see how often people throw this out and miss out on great businesses. So lots of pros there. I think some of the cons, so to say, with a one-on-one model is, look, you are like a one-on-one model, you are responsible for being somewhere at a certain time. If flexibility and freedom is your number one value, this is probably not the model for you, because I today, for example, after this, I'm getting on calls. Like I have to be scheduled at a certain time, right? I do have a very full work week. There is technically a cap to your revenue. I have a revenue sharing model, so I mean, I guess we could say in theory that's limitless, but like my revenue is also very much tied to what my clients make. I think for most of you, there is a cap. There's lots of room to raise rates, but there is going to be a cap at how many clients you can serve and hold, and how much you can raise rates that's really going to be within market demand. So I do think there is just a ceiling. I think the ceiling for most of us is so much further than we realize, and there's a lot of room to scale within this model before hitting the ceiling that for most of us would be more than enough. I mean, I'm having my best month in business ever this year in a decade, and there's still room for me to scale this, and we're making far more money than I need. Just as context there. So I think there's some other positives there. I think, again, low overhead. I think the conversion rates are higher. I think there is reoccurring revenue built in with this model, and it's generally what you can charge the highest ticket for. I think in a world of AI, and I know I sound so biased for this model, but I mean, I guess I should be biased for this model since I run it, but I don't want anyone here to think that this is like the only model and the other models are not good if you choose a different model. In a world of AI, I think one-on-one masterminds and groups, wherever you have that one-on-one component with your client. So not just one-on-one, but I guess it could be one-to-many, but in those more intimate containers. I think they are the most AI proof. Like, I really do. I think, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. We don't know where AI is going to go. There's so many problems with it right now. But I think human connection and that personalization and helping people be able to apply information personally and specifically to their situation to have a transformation and outcome, and being seen, heard, and understood by another human. Again, who knows? Like, we might be married to AI bots in the future, and like this could all go out the window. But for as far as we know right now, we are wired as humans to connect, and they have shown in brain scans that when people feel like they're being seen, heard, understood, and when they get to talk about themselves and process, that lights up the reward centers in our brain, and it is lighting up the same way that it is when people gamble or do cocaine. If that is the case, and that is how our brain is wiring around those things, then having a model that is giving people that type of reward is going to be very AI proof, when the one thing right now AI cannot do is create that human-human connection. It can do a pretty good job of like listening to you, making you feel heard and understood, and like yesing you, but it does still miss that. And so I think this again, one-on-one and things like masterminds, group programs, hybrid programs, I do think are going to be the most AI proof. I think also, as a post-COVID world, I think we are all just craving connection in a different way. So that, and the fact that they can create higher or bigger transformations, I think there's a lot to be said for those models. And again, this one-on-one is going to be your most profitable model. Again, the trade-offs there is, it is going to be more of a time capacity thing. There will be a limit to how many clients you can serve. I do think a one-on-one model, and I think this is the same for masterminds as well, right? There's a limit to the number of people you can serve unless you start bringing in group coaches. I do think with both one-on-one, masterminds, group programs, hybrid programs, you are going to be asked to learn how to set and hold boundaries, and to learn how to manage humans and hold humans without taking on their stuff at a higher degree. I think one of the biggest reasons people have a problem with growing and scaling one-on-one or masterminds, any program like that, is not so much sales, it is the internal capacity for what they are able to hold, and boundaries. I cannot tell you how much I'm supporting clients with boundaries, and how much work I have done. I would not be able to hold 23 one-on-one clients at the level I do and the level of support I give them if I wasn't able to hold boundaries, and if I was taking on everybody's stuff all day long. I would be miserable instead of loving what I do. And so I think these are parts of the trade-offs and things to think about in terms of running and serving and selling these programs. I do think with a one-on-one, same with mastermind, I think there just has to be a lot of thought put into delivery systems and how you're managing time as well. I think with any model, but I do think because time becomes such a time is always a commodity, but I think time becomes a different commodity. I think that's something we have to be really mindful of, and for us who are maybe in the over-functioning camp, making sure that we're not over-functioning, over-delivering for people. But in terms of Profitability, high, high, high. I think in terms of fulfillment, high, high, high. And in terms of ease of selling, what's so nice about one-on-one, and I think masterminds, as long as you have the people in front of you, you don't need a big audience. You don't need to be a marketing queen. Yes, if you want to scale past 6 figures, I do think messaging, marketing, social media, like the game starts to change for that when we want to start having bigger businesses, but you can do a lot through the relationships you already have, right? This can be you can have a much smaller audience. You don't have to spend money on ads. It is just a lighter lift. And I think it is, we were talking about complexity earlier. I think this is one of the simplest, if not the simplest business model. I look at my business every day, I'm like, I have the simplest business. I would never say it's easy. There's lots of things that are challenging as a business owner. It's easy for me because I've done it for a long time and I like it and I choose this. I choose my heart. I just wrote a post about that. But it is so simple. So again, I think so simple, you're not going to hit the same top line revenue, but it can be very sustainable, lots of recurring revenue, great take home pay. All right, now that I've tried to convince everybody to have a one-on-one model, and I'm kidding, I really am not trying to convince everybody to have a one-on-one model. I truly believe that, and this is maybe a great way to wrap this conversation up, that every model can work. Every model is still selling. They are just different and they require different things, and there are different trade-offs and there are pros and cons, and a higher profit margin is not better than a lower profit margin, but it is just so important we understand what goes into a model so we can choose the model that's right for us, the model that matches our strengths, the model that we believe we can show up and best deliver a transformation, meet a need, help someone to get a result, facilitate great delivery and a great experience, and the model we most want to run as a CEO, because there's the delivery of one-on-one or a course or a membership, and then there's what does it mean as a CEO to run a business and to market that and to sell it and to hold a business with that type of business model. And so I think that is what I want you to walk away with. You and I are not the same. My clients, I don't want clients who are mini-me's, right? I have a few clients who want a business like me. Most of my clients don't want the same business as me because we're very different people, even if we have similar strengths. And that's what's beautiful about business. But that's why it's also so important, why I want to have this conversation, that we start to understand these things, because otherwise we just look up to someone who we respect and who's got a great business and who's making great money. And they're like, hey, here's what I did. And we just think that's the way we should do it, as opposed to getting really clear and keeping our eyes on our own paper as to what's going to work for us, our strengths, the way we work, our nervous system, our lifestyle, right? Do you have kids? Not have kids. Do you want to work a lot? Do you want to work 20 hours a week? Do you have a high risk tolerance where you can put a bunch of money into ads and team support or not, right? These are all things to consider. So, hopefully this was valuable for you. What I will also say, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I do think, just to level set as well, I do think it's, again, important to understand this conversation, because it does take more. I'm just trying to think of how I want to frame this. It takes more of a relationship than it did in the past. It takes more trust than it did in the past to sell. And so I just think we are no longer in a time where, I think in the past you could get away with slapping together an offer, just deciding to throw a bunch of calls together, creating something new every single month. I just think that is no longer, I think we are moving away from that. I think there are some people who are still doing that, and either they are going to burn out, or at a certain point it catches up with you, because I think we also have clients and consumers who are more discerning than ever, rightfully so, and who have higher standards than ever, and who don't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on something that's been slapped together. And so that's the other reason, you don't have to get it perfect. I tested every model to figure out the model I wanted, but I do think choosing the model that's right for you, instead of constantly recreating new offers every month and thinking that's going to be the path to making more money. I think you could test a couple of different models, but then choosing the models or the combination of models so that you not only have an offer that works for you, but you are continuing to refine that. My clients who are making the most money, who are getting the biggest results, who are scaling the best, not only have the model that works for them, but it's working for them because they're constantly updating, refining, making that offer better, really focusing on the delivery, and they're continuing to refine their strategy for selling. And so it gets better and better and better every time they sell the same offer or product, as opposed to reinventing the wheel every month, which means they have to create something new, but their audience also has to catch up with something new. All right. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, drop them for me. If you have any questions on the replay, drop them for me. And then a reminder, we have a free masterclass next week where we'll take some of this and put this into more of the, okay, how do we actually fill spots in our programs? I'm going to walk you through the fully booked method. This is, again, not the only strategy out there, but this is one simple strategy. As I was preaching at the end, I really, really crave and love to give to my clients simplicity. I think scaling is all about simplicity. What is it? Simplicity scales, complexity fails. Is that Alex Hormozi? I think that was Alex Hormozi. That is my like MO for scaling. So I want to show you a simple strategy to get and stay fully booked. It is one simple strategy. It is the strategy I still use today. It has helped me to get fully booked for the first time, and I've been fully booked for going on almost 7 years. We've made $1.8 million from one-on-one alone. Highly profitable as well. So I would love to teach that to you. I would love to have you join me. It is free. I will drop a link for that, and I will see you next week, not in the group, but if you sign up, you will get a link to join that along with the bonus playbook. All right, I love you all so much, and I'll see you for the masterclass next week. Bye.